Hello everyone, and welcome back to Paper Pleats and Ribbon Roses. I just want to do a bit of a quick add-on to the last video tutorial that I created about how to make these layered organdy ribbon flowers using 5/8 of an inch organdy ribbon. I just wanted to show you this little card that I made using those organdy flowers. I really like how this turned out. The other thing I wanted to show you as well is you can use other lightweight materials such as lace. I used this 1.5 inch piece of lace. I cut it 18 inches and gathered it up the same as I did the organdy flowers. However, it only ended up, because it's wider, I ended up with just 2 layers, whereas the organdy flowers end up being 3 layers thick. It looks fine. I cut an 18-inch piece and gathered it down to 3 inches. You could probably use a 24-inch piece if you wanted more layers, but this is actually quite pretty. And you can also layer different ones, and you could take a satin piece and layer it with one brad, the two together. I just wanted to quickly go over a few little tips on using some other ribbons to make flowers. I used 1 inch satin ribbon to make these flowers here. Because the satin ribbon is heavier, I didn't really care for the way they turned out if you layered it. So I did this one the same as the organdy ones at 18 inches and gathered it down to 3 and then layered it. But I just find with this ribbon, because it's heavier, it's just a little too bulky. So I would not do it that way. You could if you wanted to, depending on what you're going to use it for. I prefer the satin ones to be just your single layer little rosette. They're very simple to make and very quick, and I'll just show you quickly a couple of tips on how to make them. Because of the original flower that I made, the organdy doesn't fray at the ends. However, satin ribbon and grosgrain ribbon does. So here's a little trick that you can use. You can either use a lighted tea light, or you can use your a little lighter. Lost my brain for a minute. And you're just going to hold your ribbon close to the flame, not in the flame, because then you're just going to get a black edge. And you're just going to hold it close enough that it starts to melt, and it's going to stop that end from fraying. Now this end is going to be at the bottom or the back of the flower, so it's really not, it's fine just to leave it just like that. I'm going to take the other end and I'm going to do the same thing, just melt it down so it stops fraying. Now this end is going to be the end that's going to be on top, and I don't like just the raw edge, so I like it folded over. We can do this quite simply by just running some Tombow at the end and folding it over by about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Now that's not going to hold that fold permanently, which isn't really a problem with these flowers, because once we put it all together and you put the brad in, it will hold it long enough, and once you've got it on your scrapbooking page and behind your page protector, it's not really going to go anywhere. However, if you're going to use it on an item that's going to have a little more handling or use, I'll show you later what you can do to keep that end to stay folded. So again, as we did with the organdy flowers, you just start on the end that you've just stopped from fraying with your flame, and just close to the edge and about 1/8 of an inch in, you're going to stitch 3 or 4 back stitches. Use as fine a needle as you can, because especially with satin ribbon, you will see the holes, and sometimes you make it run if you use a needle that's too thick. So as with the organdy ribbon, you just take 4 or 5 running stitches onto your needle on the bottom edge, and you continue doing that all the way to the end. Now I've done this one already. I've run my stitches, and this is my folded over edge, and you're just going to pull on that, and you're going to gather it up as tightly as you can. I can't recall if I told you, I used an 8-inch piece of ribbon for this. You can use anywhere from 8 to 10 inches, depending on how full you want your gathers. So this one's slightly different than the Organdy flower. You're going to pull it as tight as you can, and then you're going to do 3 or 4 back stitches again to secure your thread and to stop the gathers from coming out. All right. We'll just put that through to the back. Now, at this point, you have 2 options. If you don't like to sew, and you do as little sewing as possible, then at this point, you'll just take your glue dot, as we did with the Organdy. You're going to go to the beginning where you started stitching, and you're going to stick that glue dot down. And then take your top edge, which is the folded edge, and fold it over top like that. You will then put another glue dot here to hold that closed, and then you're done. I'm not doing that because I want to show you an alternative. I'm a sewer, so sewing is not a problem for me, and I prefer to do that. So I'm just going to leave that glue dot there, but you wouldn't put one in if you were going to do the sewing. So after you had secured your gathers, you would just leave your thread attached, and then you would, from the back, you would sort of stitch along the folded edge and try not to go through to the front, and you'll just sort of pick up on the ribbon underneath like that, and just do a few stitches till you get to the end. And again, secure it with 3 or 4. Make sure you go through to the top layer, but try not to go through to the very top so you don't see your stitches. And then, excuse me, you just cut that off. All right, so you have 2 options. You can sew it closed, or you can use glue dots. Again, as I said, the glue dots will keep it there for what you need it for, and then you take your brad. These are shimmer brads that I'm using this week. On the Organdy flowers, I used the designer Colonial White brads that Close to My Heart sells. And the shimmer brads are designer brads from Close to My Heart as well. And they come in 3 colors, gold, silver, and sort of a bronze, with 2 sizes of each. And you can actually decorate these right on this card. And then once it's done, you can take them off and pop it into the center of your flower. Again, please use liquid glass because the adhesive that's on the back of any self-adhesive pearls or gems is just not going to stay there forever. So a liquid glass would improve that. I hadn't done that to this one yet. So there's your flower. Now quickly again, this is another Close to My Heart product. It's a 1-inch grosgrain ribbon, and it already has a stitching detail on it. So if you have any ribbons that have a row of stitching, you can skip one of the parts. However, some of the other parts take a little bit longer. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull out some of the thread here on one side. And you're going to have to secure this, but before we do that, let's do our melting. Sorry, cut that off. Grosgrain ribbon melts quite well as well, and stops the end from fraying. This will not work for twill ribbon. You will start a fire. So satin and grosgrain ribbon will work, but not twill. So then you're going to pull this thread out. We have to secure it. So you're going to pull out, start to gather this up, and pull out enough that you can then thread this onto a needle. Now I've tried gluing it. So you'll need a bigger needle. You'll need one with a bigger eye. I've tried just gluing this down. I've tried just melting it, and it doesn't always hold. The very first one I did, it held, and I didn't do this stitching part. But the second one that I tried, when I tried to pull on the thread for the gathering, it just pulled right out. So you will have to do this, unless, I don't know, maybe liquid glass would hold it, but that would take some time to dry. So now that that's done, I'm going to take my Tombow. Actually, you don't have to fold this end in, but I'm going to, and fold that down. Now go to the other end and release the thread on that end as well. I usually try it about 2 or 3 stitches in. Now this end you're just going to keep pulling. But before we do that, we can do the melting part, but we can't do the folding over. All right. So we'll just get this gathered to the end so that it won't gather anymore. Okay. And take this. This is fairly thick, so I'm going to try and show this to you, but I don't know if it's going to work. You see the eye of my needle here. I'm going to wrap my thread around it like this. And then if you pinch it between your finger and your thumb and pull up on the needle, it gives you a fairly flat surface to then go in to the eye. Obviously it didn't work that time because I was trying to show it to you. And I was doing it too slow. So usually it works, and then you can get all of that in there like that. Make sure your gathers are tight. Take 2 or 3 stitches. Two, because I lost my thread, but that's okay. I should hold it. And then I'm going to, because this end is going to be on the top, I'm going to fold that under like that. And I folded it the wrong way. That's okay. We'll do it this way. There's nothing, you can't make mistakes. You just turn it around and make something else. Okay, so I did it the wrong way on the bottom, but that's all right. And then again, just with your glue dots, you put a glue dot here and a glue dot on the end. And take your brad. Put your brad in. That also helps secure everything. And your little flower is complete. So I hope you've enjoyed these tutorials. Play around with different ribbons, with different widths of ribbons. Generally the rule is if the wider the ribbon, the longer the piece of ribbon that you need. Play around with layering different types of ribbon, and you'll come up with a lot of different combinations. They're really fun. I'm having a lot of fun doing these. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon.